Tarika, you could admit everybody? Good morning. Welcome to the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center Tuesday morning webinar. My name is Mary Jo Williams. I'm the Network Marketing Coordinator at the VISBDC. We will be conducting these webinars every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. For those of you that are new to the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center, we have two offices. We have an office that's located at Estate Peters Rest in St. Croix. The office isn't open for foot traffic. We are seeing people virtually. And we also have an office that services the St. Thomas, St. John district that's located at Niski Center. We are working virtually from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. So please feel free to give us a call. And that number is shown on my name slide, and or send us an email at info@visbdc.org. Now today we're in for a treat because we have the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs being represented here today by Director Horace Graham. I'll give you a little bit of background about Mr. Graham. He's a native of St. Croix, and he received his education through the Virgin Islands public school system and at Cornell University. After returning to the Virgin Islands, Mr. Graham served in substantive positions at various departments of the government of the Virgin Islands, including the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Property and Procurement. Mr. Graham joined the staff of the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs in 2007. Career highlights include that he served as the Chief of Contracts and Procurement, Assistant Director, and then Director of the Division of Licensing, Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs. Mr. Graham has served for many years as the Chairman of the Virgin Islands Taxi Cab Commission. So today you guys are here to hear Mr. Graham talk about the new general business license that's been put into place by the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs. And so as not to delay any longer, I will turn over control of this session to Mr. Horace Graham. And welcome, Mr. Graham. Your mic is muted, sir.
Here we go. Good morning, everyone. And it's Tuesday morning. You know, this is at the beginning of the week, and we're looking forward to great things happening this week. And so I'm really excited to share with you this morning and to, you know, to be of an assistance to those of you who are on the line and interested in learning a little bit about what we do here at the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs. For sure, we have been working very feverishly to ensure that we can issue licenses on a more speedy basis. Is something that we have been concerned about. And today, we're going to be spending some time just kind of discussing newest license category that we have launched. And I believe that it will represent an opportunity for individuals to move through and navigate the system of business licensing in the U.S. Virgin Islands at a more appreciable speed. And so let me begin by acknowledging my commissioner, Richard T. Evangelista Esquire. He is the commissioner of the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs, came on board and really sought to shake things up and challenged us in a number of ways to push the whole idea of increasing decreasing rather the time that it takes to issue business licenses. As you know, that this is a very highly regulated part of the process. And so we had to do some interesting gymnastics to try to get this going. And so this is a culmination of that. But let me just begin by letting you know also that the mission of the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs is to issue business and professional licenses to assist, educate, and protect consumers, and to ensure that all business entities and individuals comply with the licensing and consumer protection laws of the Virgin Islands. We say our motto is serving businesses and assisting, educating, and protecting consumers. we take it as we take pride in the fact that we don't just jump out and start to regulate. We like to say that we educate before we regulate. And I think that has been a major thrust of the department and its ancillary divisions in terms of getting the community knowledgeable before we take whatever action that the law provides us to take. So today we'll be discussing sort of the regulatory requirements and business license, but specifically, and application procedures, but specifically we'll be focusing on the general business license. As you heard, my name is Horace Graham, and some information on how you can get in touch with me if you need to follow up and follow through on any inquiries or any questions that you may have. Let me begin by letting you know that the Virgin Islands Code, Title 27, Section 301, specifically announces and lets us know that every person or association wishing to engage in any business or occupation, profession, or trade must be, simply put, must be licensed in order to do so. That's an important part of this whole process, that every business is required to have a license. Now, that requirement and the way that we have been doing it in the past presents some very interesting challenges for people who are looking to move timely. And I give an example would be if, for instance, and we'll get into the details of it, but if, let's say, for instance, you're trying to open a restaurant or a hotel, something that requires, let's say, build out and other things. In the past, you couldn't get a business license before you could meet all of the inspections that are required for you to be able to be issued that license. And so you had people would go through the whole process of building out their establishment without being able to open a bank account here in the Virgin Islands and so on. And so we have given some thought to this, and what we'll discuss today should ameliorate that situation. This Title 27303A and B kind of discusses the whole concept of what it would, the application process, and how the authority of the department to query other agencies or other ancillary agencies in order to establish the factual basis for issuing a business license to any individual or entity here in the territory. I'm laying this out so that you understand how we went about to do this particular license category. And 303B, the commissioner may establish reasonable conditions. And basically this allows for the creation of terms and conditions and establish certain policies and procedures that allow us to do the things that we do in terms of regulating the licenses. We also allow us to suspend, to revoke, and do other action against a business license. Fees are established on the 303D, and so basically that sets forth the authority under which we undertook the challenge of creating this new license category. Let me let you know then that the new license category is called the General Business License. The General Business License. And this, as we go into the discussion, you will understand why we consider it general and what some of the features of that license. The fee is $200. What I did not include here is that there's an application fee generally for licenses in the territory. It's a $50 application fee, and there's some additional charges that relates to zoning review and police record check, which is $20 for zoning review and $12 for police record review per person. Okay, and you will see that later. So what is this new license category really about? I'll share with you the definition, and then I'll go into a little bit of detail. Okay, so this license is required for all businesses engaging in any business transaction in the territory that have a business tax identification number and who are not otherwise transacting a business activity that requires the business to obtain a license for a specific business category activity listed in our general listing of business licenses under 302A, or as expanded, which the same 302A gives us the authority to create and or 302B create new and additional license categories, or required by any other provision. And so this is an important part, because it lets you know that the basis for you being able to receive that general business license lies in the fact that you are registered in the territory, and that you have a tax ID number, and that's that will be revealed as we go on into this discussion why that's important. And at a minimum, we'll share with you what those requirements are. So if a business entity is comprised of principals who are required to maintain a license granted or regulated by a local, state, or national certification board or body, then the entity and its licensed principals shall not be required to obtain a general business license. What that is saying is that if you are an entity, let's say you're an architect, a construction contractor, you're seeking to establish those types of organizations, those types of activities here in the Virgin Islands, the general business license is not required, and it should be stated that you're not able to obtain a general business license for those types of activities because they are regulated by a separate board. There are processes being put in place within those separate boards to address the need for a license that mirrors this same process. So this is for the business activity that is governed by the Division of Licensing and not by any other board, commission, or other instrumentality of the government of the Virgin Islands. And so that includes banks and so on that are regulated under banking and insurance, insurance companies that are also regulated there. They will not be able to obtain the general business license. They would have to do that with the respective board, commission, or regulatory agency. All right, so what are some of the activities that are permitted and why we think that this license is so valuable? Well, it allows to do things like opening your bank accounts. So we have individuals who apply for, let's say, for licensure through the EDA or for certification, and when they register their business, they register it with the Lieutenant Governor's office. They ideally would like it to be the date of registration to be the date of the, or closer to that date, the date of the license. And depends on what activity they're doing, that is not likely to occur. So with the general business license, as soon as you have certain parameters, if you meet certain parameters, we'll be able to issue that license. And our tagline is within 24 hours. That's what we work towards. As long as we can get you with your documentation in order, within 24 hours, we should be able to issue that license. And so, so we open them bank accounts, purchase of personal and or real property. So if you needed to purchase property, if you needed to, enter into lease agreements for your business, if you wanted to import equipment, many businesses are stopped at the port. If they say that they're doing business and bringing products in a name that they registered with the Lieutenant Governor's office, the port officials will ask them for a business license. And if you don't have a business license, then you'd have to kind of come to the DLCA. We would typically interview you, find out what you're doing, and then work towards issuing a notice that would allow you to clear customs under the terms that you would come into compliance with the licensing department. What we did now is we turned that around, and we're allowing now individuals to obtain the general business license so that there'll be no delay in you going forward with setting up your enterprise, even in advance of you getting the license for the specific activity that you're seeking to perform. So registering of motor vehicles, that's a huge one, and other related non-regulated transactional business activity. And so as long as it's not something that you must obtain a business license for, the general business license will allow you to do it short of running and operating your business of choice. For that, you will need a business license, which this will buy you the time to get everything in place before you obtain the license. All right, so what is that? What does that process look like? And so you would basically follow the application process for a business license. It's outlined in chapter 20, chapter 9, title 27, chapter 9. But what we basically, it's the DLCA online business license application. You would fill that out, and you will select the license category, general business license. And so a few things that you may, and I will highlight the fact that I'm saying you may be required to produce, because depending on what you're doing, we may decide that we will need a longer review period, or we can even simplify it and shorten that review period for that application. So you may obtain a police criminal history check, which we have that standard. You may obtain a DPNR zoning approval. That may or may not be required, depends on what the type of activity that you're performing. And if you have any particular questions there, I could be happy to answer. You may need to obtain a fire certificate for home occupation approval. And so it really depends on what it is that you're going to be doing. This may come when you do the final application for licensure, but we may need to know upfront whether or not that activity can be performed based on what you're requesting. And then you need to pay all required fees, and I outlined those fees to you earlier. Your license fee, which is $200, the application fee of $50, $20 for zoning, if that's applicable, and as will always be applicable, the police record check or criminal history check, which is $12 per person listed on the business license application. All right, and so each application will be signed by the owner. We allow for a digital signature. In this case, it's not really a signature, it's an attestation. So once you identify and say that you agree to the terms, you can click yes, and that will suffice for our certification on those signature requirements. So the licenses are valid for 1 year, and in this case, if it's listed in conjunction with another business license, it may terminate in conjunction with that license's original termination date. And so that will could be a fraction of a year. And the license shall, if you decide that you're going to change your locations or terminate your license, you should notify the department within 30 days so that we can put you through the paces of obtaining the correct change of address for this. Okay, and if you change ownership, that also you are required to notify the department because the licenses are not transferable, except that it's in the case of a corporation or LLC where the entire business is, the whole enterprise is just changed of ownership. That's the process there. And so those are some of the basic application requirements for that general business license. And so the basic application procedures in general would require you to apply and obtain approval from the Office of the Lieutenant Governor. And we are recommending, in the case of the general business license, that would be the first and foremost thing that you would do, especially if you are not a sole proprietorship. If you are a corporation, a partnership, an LLC, a limited partnership of some sort, you would want to apply to the Lieutenant Governor's office for the required, whether it's a trade name or your corporate registration. And then you would want to come and apply online at the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs. I believe on the first slides, or one of the slides I have there, it says it's www.dlca.vi.gov. That's our Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs business license application website. The requirements, as I indicated: criminal history check, DPNR zoning. If you're applying for something other than if you're doing let's say a hotel, a restaurant, you may be required to have an environmental health compliance review. And this is on the long review of the general, not the general business license, of the business license of your specific requiring. You may need to obtain a fire inspection, and any other agency that the commissioner deems appropriate to establish your fitness for licensure. The other things that are mandatory in this process is the photo ID, and you must have an EIN number, the form SS4 that you receive from the IRS when you apply for your EIN number, that is required. I have a footnote here that the mandatory for sole proprietorships. In the case of sole proprietorships, many times a sole proprietorship can apply with a social security number. In this case, if you're applying for a general business license, you must present that an EIN number as a prerequisite to obtaining the business license under the general business license category. All right, so an example of let's say an application submitted, if you register with the Lieutenant Governor's Office and you obtain all of the required approvals from there, you should have in hand if it's a case of an LLC, a certificate of authority, you have a certificate of good standing. If you existed before and you just are doing this as an additional license, you'll get your certificate of good standing. We'll also ask for, if you have a trade name, that you produce that, articles of organization, an operating agreement, resident agent form, which is necessary. And then if the names that are not patently visible and recognizable through the documents submitted, then corporate resolutions or certificate of incumbency detailing or naming the persons listed on the business license application would be necessary. All right, and so for those of you who are on the line that may not be existing businesses and not familiar, the website, our website is www.dlca.vi.gov, and you would simply click the registration button at the bottom of the left-hand side of the screen. It's to the bottom of the screen on the I say left, right side of the screen, and then you'll fill out the registration form. It's basically an email and password. It's a very short registration process, and then once you're in and you're registered, then you will select apply for new license, and you just follow the requirements of the prompts towards completion of the license application. When you get to the section that asks for a business license category, you will select from that massive list of potential license activity, general business license, and then you will proceed. As part of that, you would want to make sure you put in there a description of your business activity, not just saying that you want to open a bank account. It'll be good to describe what you intend to do, and it'll help us understand what we are looking forward when you resubmit an application for a licensure. All right, so this is basically your user registration screen. Just a quick once over for you. If you're returning and you're an existing user, then you would be signing in like this to your login page. These are some of the fields that you would be filling out, some of the demographic information that we're asking from you. And I just pulled this from an application. Okay. Select the license categories, it's described there. And then once the application is submitted, the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs team receives a notice here. We can see all the different businesses that are showing up on the dashboard, the status of that license. On your side, you will be able to see who your licensing officer is. There will be in the very near future, where because of COVID-19, you're able to call into the office to get assistance. But what we're recognizing is that folks who know who their licensing officer is, we're going to be putting we have a directory online so you can get that, but we'll also be trying to connect you directly from your login portal with a telephone number and a cell phone number for our licensing officers, so that you'll be able to reach out to them and seek assistance when needed. All right. So basically that's it. In terms of the new business license category, but I could say to you that the license is valid for a year. There's no limitation on the number of times that you can renew it. As long as you renew it annually, you should be good to go. And I will tell you that it serves an immensely valuable purpose. There are times when you're doing the renewal of your license and there may be issues with tax clearance. Given the circumstances and what may prevail, we may be able to issue you that license, the general business license, so that you can continue the transactions that you need to do to be able to get into compliance. Let's say you were purchasing some equipment that you needed to bring in. You did purchase that equipment, it's sitting on the docks. You don't have a valid business license. The general business license should suffice to allow you to continue that, move that equipment into place, get it installed, or to enter into appropriate contracts that would allow you to get the revenues needed to be able to settle a score with the government and the tax and other obligations. And so basically, the renewal process will be simple. You'll submit for tax clearance. You will do a written tax clearance, that's simply. And then if you find yourself in a moment of delinquency, we certainly would be happy to work with you towards resolving it. So if you're online and you existing business and you haven't renewed your license timely, don't be afraid, get in, get it done. Don't wait until it's too late. You gotta renew on time. And even if you are late, we can still work with you. Our goal is to keep businesses operational, keep them in process, and not to necessarily terminate. We don't like that process of terminating a license, but if we have to, due to non-compliance, we certainly will. And if you decide that you want to terminate your license for any reason, there's a simple process. You just notify us. We actually have a form that you can download, and it's a business license termination form if you want to cease the business activity. You notify us, you explain what the situation is, and we will then process it. If your license is delinquent, you have to bring it current before terminating. And so keep that in mind. The timely renewal of the license is very, very critical. And so that is the end of my formal presentation, but I'm certainly available for those on this Tuesday morning who have some questions in regards to what can be done in processing a business license generally, and specifically the general business license that seeks to give businesses a jump start on the engaging the activities for preparing the business that they're seeking to do in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Again, I'm so grateful that you could have joined us this morning for this talk. And so I hope that it was clear. And if you have any questions, I stand ready to answer.
Mr. Graham.
Yes.
Can we share a copy of your PowerPoint presentation with the audience?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Then some of the questions are a little complicated, so I'll let you read them, and so you can, because my translation might not be quite appropriate.
So you're going to have to help me with this. Where would I see it?
Okay, click on chat at the bottom of your screen.
Okay, chat.
And then it should pop up over on the right-hand side.
Okay, so I don't see a chat. I may need to. Okay,
there, and on the bottom right, it says more, and there are 3 dots.
Yes.
Okay, click on the 3 dots.
All right. It says record, disable, hide, computer sound.
You don't see chat? Okay.
No.
All right.
Can you just read him the questions?
Yes.
Yeah, just read the questions. That's fine.
Okay, I will read.
I see it here. Chat. I see it. Okay. All right. So,
how many licenses can be required for one person to have to conduct business?
It's literally unlimited. You see, the business license process is that you're licensed per activity. So it's not just now the general business license will be one for the company. But if let's say, for instance, you're a proprietor, you're an entrepreneur, you're looking to do a hotel, you want to do a restaurant. In that hotel and restaurant, you also want to include a nightclub. You have a retail store as part of that. All of those different license categories, it'll be one license certificate, but they will have all the different categories of business activity. So there could be an infinite number of activities. You may also decide that you may have a manufacturing of some sort of let's say, or even if you have an ice cream parlor and coffee shop separate and apart. So there's a number of things that may be considered for licensure in each individual case.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to read part of the next one. It says, I do taxes and help clients to plan their income and taxes. Okay, and I had a license to do taxes. Okay, I was told that after a couple of renewals, that because I also talked to the client, I needed a second license to talk to them.
That's a hard one. That one doesn't have a license for talking. If you're doing taxes, and you're a tax consultant or you're any number of specific categories that we offer, I don't know that there's anything for talking. If that is still an outstanding issue, please, I would love to have that conversation with you, and perhaps you can reach out to the office. My telephone number is let me make sure I give that correctly. It's 725-5024. That's I don't have it on the slide here, but that's my direct cell number. 725-5024. Yeah. And I see another question here. It says, how long can a person hold a general business license? Will it cover about every category? And yes, it's annually, as the presentation says. It's renewable annually, and it will cover those activities that are not regulated by another agency. So, and it doesn't cover all activities. This is specifically designed for the activity of organizing the business. Doesn't give you the authority to operate the business, but it's for those types of activity that we are authorized through the Division of Licensing to issue a business license. If you are part of a board and commission, construction contractor, architect, engineer, counselor, etc., we will not be issuing the general business license to you. You're not required to apply for it then, and so it doesn't pertain to you. Then there's a long question here. It's a quite long question here. It says, good morning. Okay, from Priscilla. I have a active LLC in the USA, but want to secure a VI business license. My practice is marketing, public relations, events. I work on various other projects as well. Should I get a general business license or a specific category? Also, do I have any physical office? I do not have a physical office location. I work from home office, but I also go in my. Yeah, okay. All right, so a couple questions that are engendered in this one. And again, thank you so much for your transparency and for sharing that very, very important question here. So if you do a number of things like marketing, public relations, and events, we have a number of license categories that actually match that, and depends on the configuration. You may obtain a marketing, advertising marketing. If you're doing it as a web-based activity, we have one that says marketing, advertising, marketing, internet, but there are specific license categories. The general business license is not a cover-all for those activities. If you're performing specific activities for which we have business licenses, then the general business license is not going to allow you to do those things. But let's give an example. So you came into the Virgin Islands, you're looking to set up, you don't have an office as yet, you're trying to set up and figure out what you want to do. You register with the Lieutenant Governor's office, you have your registration information all set. How do you approach a bank? How do you enter into a lease in the name of your business? How do you do a number of those things? The general business license certainly sets you on your way so that you don't have to wait until you get the business license to do so. If you don't have an office in a commercial center or business center, let's say you do it at home, then it still applies. You can work at home, you can do it as a home-based business, but if the home is not in the US Virgin Islands, if you have a, as long as you have, you can get an address in the US Virgin Islands, or you can, let me go back here and give you a quick pointer. If you have a resident agent, let's say, That resident agent, you can register and use the address of the resident agent as the basis for your license. We just don't have the capacity to issue you a business license, let's say in the state of Florida. So if you apply for Virgin Islands business license and an address says Florida, we will not be able to issue a Virgin Islands address with a Florida address. So your resident agent address could suffice for the location requirement on the license. Okay. I believe. Okay, so Amy, okay, there's too many categories, I hear that. It seems like there are quite a few, we do have a number of categories of business activity, and it's the way that we transact here in the Virgin Islands. It's, you are licensed not in a general sense, but you're licensed to do the specific activity. It's not unlike many other jurisdictions, but this is the regulatory process that we have embraced here in the Virgin Islands, and there are a number of categories of business activity. It's not that it's impossible to navigate, but what it is once you give a description of what it is that you're doing, we're letting you know that whatever it is that you're trying to do, it may require other agencies to weigh in on it. With the general business license, what we're doing is we're saying we're going to short circuit that process just a bit so that you can get in and begin doing the setup things that you need to do. And our endeavor is to get that to you as quickly as possible. We are promoting that we will do it within 24 hours, and we have been getting some of those out. There are others where they haven't yet registered with the Lieutenant Governor's office, or there are concerns about the type of activity that they're seeking to do, because it may be construction related, maybe engineering related. Those things we are working to. We may have to hold up that process just to do some verification. So beyond that, we are working that out. Person is saying they are an artist, work from home. Well, the general business license will work for you to the extent where you are trying to do this from home, and you're having to apply for a license, or maybe you want to open a bank account and you don't have the licenses yet, or let's say you're exploring your options to determine, maybe I want to set up at one location, want to open a studio, something that will assist in you being able to begin that process. But there's specific licenses for your activity. So the general business license doesn't replace that. What it does, it's an additional license that lets you get into the activity that you need to get into in terms of organizing to be able to render that service at a quicker clip. So that's what we should keep in mind. A few more questions that are floating down the line here. Does every artist need a license? Let me see, how about these areas? Musicians at local eateries, guys selling CDs and stuff outside the store in the parking lot, a person washing cars in the downtown area, farm stand tables, beds beside the road, internet-only business, eBay stores, etc. Everyone requires is required. If you're going to be conducting business in the U.S. Virgin Islands, you are required to have a business license. And so that's the yeah, you are required. So even the guys selling CDs, even the persons engaging in car washing, people who have farm stands. If you have a farm stand, you should have your farmer's license, then that will suffice. If you have a web-based business, we have retail sales internet, and we have licenses that you can obtain for that. It's in your best interest that you are registered with the government, you are paying your fair share, you're a good corporate citizen. We're quite happy to work. Another question that says, a substitute teacher receives 1099 hours. Is a general business license required? Substitute teacher, that's an employment, that's actually a position, I'm assuming with the Department of Education. And I would say in general, no, we don't have a business license for a teacher per se, but if you're doing business as a, let's say, a special instructor, or you're doing some specific training on your own, then you can apply for that license. And the general business license would be, as I said again, a precursor to you being able to get into the specific activity that you intend. We recognize that many businesses have been suffering with the idea of the challenge of being able to navigate the system, getting bank accounts, applying for insurance, bringing equipment in, registering their vehicles. You shouldn't have to wait until you get the business license in order to be able to do those transactional things. And so that's what this license serves to do. Get you up and running, have you in good standing, and be able to have a business license in the name of your corporation even before you are prepared to do. Some people are just doing exploratory things. They don't even know what they have a general idea of what they want to do, but they haven't gotten it organized yet. When you can get the general business license, so when you decide to get a lease and do all these other things in preparation for operation, you are in good standing. You have a license that you can enter into those agreements. We have a few more questions that are coming on. People have made facial masks from home recently and sold them for nominal amounts. Do they need a license? Just trying to get an overall scope of who does not need a license. Again, I'm going to reiterate, everyone conducting business in the US Virgin Islands, if you're making items for retail, if you're giving away items, then obviously you're not getting involved in business. If you're a nonprofit and you're registered with the Lieutenant Governor's office as such, then a business license is not required, as long as we can give you a determination letter there. But if you are conducting business at any scale, you are required to have a business license. And for those who are doing the masks, we have a general manufacturing, very simple license, miscellaneous manufacturing products. We can do the very minimum, I think it's like $65, and then another one, general manufacturing, $130. That depends on what you're doing. So we do have appropriate licenses for individuals who are doing those things. If you're going to sell items as an itinerant vendor, roadside, and so on, as long as you have permission to be at that location, you can apply for the general, you apply for the appropriate license for that activity. Again, the general license serves as an advance aid, and long after you have gotten the license, the general license will serve in the event that you may have some challenge with your business. The general license, we shall renew that license on an annual basis without necessarily going through some of the other strictures. And what this does is it allows you to stay current on your obligations, let's say with contracts, signing contracts and doing all those other things. When you meet certain hiccups, and we'll be happy to walk you through that. Let me see what else is showing up here. If your good is not sold in the VI, do you need a license? That will need some clarification. If you're not selling anything in the U.S. Virgin Islands, then maybe you don't need a. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think about if you are a manufacturer of products, then certainly you would need a manufacturing license. If you're making the goods and you're retailing them outside of the U.S., then obviously you would need. My only assumption is that if you're selling it someplace else, that you would probably need a license in that jurisdiction to be able to do that. During the license process, is it possible to obtain a conditional license until fully approved? There are formal bids that entrepreneurs may want to submit but have to deal with. Okay, perfect. So this, Nikki, that's a perfect and wonderful question. I think your question actually lines up with what the experience that we had. Lots and lots of businesses are required to have a business license, and they're entering into the field of they're bidding on projects and let's say contracts for supplies and other things, and they have not yet completed. Let's say they were opening a warehouse and they don't have the warehouse set up. The business license that you can have is the general business license, and that allows you to proceed in those areas. You are licensed in the Virgin Islands it's not to conduct a specific business activity, But what it does is it says, I can organize my business. I can enter into leases. I can enter into contracts. I can do a number of things. Be aware, however, that some contracts, depending on what they're doing, they may require you to have the actual business license. And that is not something that we can control. It will be based on what that individual is required. So if they say that they want to see that you are a particular type of business or a business in existence for X number of years, then that is their prerogative. Okay. It seems it's redundant. It seems that this is a redundant license, especially if you will have to get others. What type of license does an artist with a studio at home represented by another gallery needs if you're not selling the work yourself? If you have your studio at home, we have a category called artist studio, and I want to reiterate that if you're applying for a license and you're okay with you're going through the process, and you don't have that urgent need or you don't see the immediate value in it, then we're saying that we're not currently making it mandatory that you get the general business license, but I'm saying to you that it has immense value, especially if you are in the process of organizing your entity and you don't have the licenses set up yet. Somebody put an application in, they still have to get documentation and other things, lease agreements set, and they don't have, you can apply for the general business license so that you can proceed in those directions. So in some instances, your argument may be true that it seems redundant, but businesses face a lot of challenges, and one of them has to do with the tax clearance. It has to do with being able to, if you don't have tax clearance, we can't issue you a business license. But the general business license allows us to grant you that so that you can proceed with your organizing and then work out the details of your actual physical, practical business license that you'll be needing. Example, the internet has completely changed the business world. Goods, professional services, tele, med, Fiverr, consulting, etc. How does licensing adapt to what when your body is here, but your services provided, items are drop shipped from elsewhere, so items are not sold here? Beautiful question, beautiful question. And so we recognize that in the age of internet, a lot of people will be doing retail on the internet, consulting on the internet. If you are a business owner, if you are a consultant, we have a business and management consulting license. You can apply for that license. You may choose to, if you're doing transactions online, to do the advertising, marketing, internet, that's how you're marketing your services, or the retail sales internet license. There are a number of license categories that could seek to get you that. Now, the issue here is whether or not you want to be licensed in the Virgin Islands. And here's the thing that actually jumps out at me and always gets me each time. Individuals, and it showed up very, very prominently during this economic downturn, during the COVID-19 experience. Folks were coming out of the woodworks trying to get licenses. They were claiming that they were in business and so on. Listen, it's a simple thing. The law says that if you're going to conduct business, you must have a business license. And so apply for the license that would most appropriately match the activity that you're seeking to do. Whether it's here if you're living here and conducting that business, get the license. You know, it will only serve to your benefit, especially as you establish yourself as a corporate citizen, someone who is in business. You know, we're trying to eliminate the black market. So if you're conducting business on the web and you're doing all sorts of activities, you know, I'm saying to you, and I'm appealing to you today, that you should apply for the license. Get a license so that you're known to be a licensed entity in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and that could only serve to your benefit. You establish tax-paying history. You establish the fact that you're existing entity, register with the Lieutenant Governor's office, and also apply for a license with DLCA. You prove yourself a good corporate citizen. So when you walk among the other individuals who are actively and appropriately licensed, you're not going to feel like a pariah. You are actually a contributing member to our community, and you're benefiting others by the taxes that you pay. All right. know something of entrepreneurs and they have real questions.
Okay. Well, Mr. Graham, I want to thank you for all of the information that you've shared with us today. And your cell phone number is in the chat. So
Yes.
people can give you a call at 340-725-5024.
Sure, that is the number.
Okay.
Just
And they
know
can
that,
send you an email.
yes, email it's I think you have that information there. It's horace.graham@dlca.vi.gov. I prefer that you send an email. You send an email, I can always get back to you. That's horace.graham@dlca.vi.gov. I really appreciate you guys, the time I spent with you. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me, and we'll be happy to assist you to the extent possible, the greatest extent possible.
Okay, on behalf of the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center, we want to thank you for coming to share information with our group. And for those that are online, I neglected to say that our counseling services at the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center are at no cost to the public. So go to our website, register to become a client, and we'll help you with a lot of these things. We'll try and direct you towards some correct things that Mr. Graham's office has available. And we want you to be sure to, if you're in business, check out the webinar tomorrow at 10 a.m. The VI Economic Development Authority and the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center, in collaboration with the Disability Rights Center of the Virgin Islands, will be putting on a seminar, social media, which takes into consideration people with the disabilities, to make sure that your advertising, marketing gets to everybody that's in the community as we celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And that happens on the 26th of July this year. It's amazing to think that it's been 30 years already. It's made a big difference in the lives of people, but we've got a lot more change that needs to take place so that we can continue to make sure that all the members of our community are acknowledged, respected, and get the services that they need. So that'll be a good webinar for people to tune into tomorrow. We'll be back here next week with our Tuesday morning webinar at 10 a.m. So we look forward to seeing folks then. And on behalf of our state director, Mr. Ted Gutierrez, if he's online, he can give us closing remarks.
Yes, Mary Jo, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Graham, for your presentation this morning. It was fantastic. I know that there's been a lot of excitement regarding the new business license. So we will definitely provide some additional technical assistance and send them your way to get more businesses started here in the Virgin Islands. So, and thank you to all the listeners and the viewers. And we appreciate your support. And please do not hesitate to reach out to the SBDC for assistance. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you all. Have a good day.